Game 4 of the NLDS last October. Ryan Vogelsong was on the mound. The Giants were once again playing inspired baseball, just like they've done so many times before, making it another October to remember. Tonight, it's Vogelsong again against Steven Strasburg as these two teams push through the dog days of summer and once again hoping to play ball in the fall. Game 1 of the series next. A beautiful night for a ball game here at 24 Willie Mays Plaza at the corner of 3rd and King Streets in downtown San Francisco. The Giants and the Nats. It's game 1 of a 4-game series. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller with Mike Krukow. Welcome to San Francisco Giants baseball. The Giants trying to get themselves straightened out and in a hurry. 3.5 back of the Dodgers now in the National League West. The Washington Nationals could pretty well say the same thing. They began the day 3.5 out in the National League East. Now, the Giants are reeling a bit offensively, and why not? 3 of their regular starters are on the disabled list right now. So, Mike, what's the key for the Giants getting that offense going, even though they would seem to be a bit shorthanded?
Well, we have a shakeup in the lineup, and what Bruce Bochy has done is taken Brandon Belt and moved him up to the 3 spot in the lineup. Matt Duffy slips into the 2 spot with the hopes that there'll be more opportunities set up for Buster Posey and for Brandon Belt. Now, when you're not scoring runs and you've been accustomed to doing so, it can really mess with the chemistry of a team, because all of a sudden we're used to have this trust. If the at bat got past you, the guy behind you would pick you up. Now all of a sudden you start to press, you start to put it all on your shoulders, and that's the one thing they have to avoid. Hopefully the shakeup in the lineup will produce some runs and get them back on track. Now
the pitching matchup, Steven Strasburg, who had a great one his last time out, goes against Ryan Vogelsong. The last time Vogelsong saw the Nationals here, the last time the Nationals were here, last October, Vogelsong was outstanding, the clinching game in the division series.
Well, and he can be outstanding again tonight. The key for Vogelsong is going to be as to how aggressive he is with the fastball. When he's right, you'll see Vogelsong pound the corners with 2 types of movement with the fastball, and he'll use that fastball 65% of the time. If he's able to do that, if he's aggressive and gets ahead early and then stays on those corners, he'll do fine. His opponent, Steven Strasburg, he's been throwing great baseball, and the key for Strasburg has always been able to command. If he's been able to command his 4 electric pitches, it's going to be a rough night. So it's whatever pitcher finds that rhythm first, that will be the difference maker in this game.
Giants and the Nationals. We talked about Vogelsong facing these Nats last October, and that was in Game 4 of the NLDS. In a moment, Amy G will have more on that bit of Giants history when we come back to AT&T Park after these words.
Francisco Giants are looking for a bounce-back win this evening. They welcome in their 2014 postseason rivals, the Washington Nationals, for a 4-game series. Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Amy Gutierrez, and Ryan Vogelsong will be on the hill tonight for your San Francisco Giants. And last season, he played the role of hero when he was the starter of Game 4 in the 2014 NLDS against, you got it, the Washington Nationals. It's our forward right choice this evening. Ryan threw 5 2/3 innings. He gave up 2 hits, 1 run. He had 2 walks and 4 strikeouts. And under his steady performance, he helped the Giants clinch the division series on their way to yet another World Series title. Now, of course, he had a little bit of help with some spectacular defensive plays like that one, now known as the famous Pence on the fence. And after the game, Ryan told the media, "This is what you dream of." It was a special moment indeed. All right, Ryan Vogelsong on the hill. Your San Francisco Giants are going to go up against Steven Strasburg of the Nationals. We have lineups, first pitch, and we're going to check in with our Comcast Sportsnet studios right after this.
Just last year, that one turned out pretty well for your San Francisco Giants. The Washington Nationals in town. Welcome inside our CSN Bay Area studios. I'm Ahmed Fareed with Tim Flannery on Grateful Dead night with a great tie as well. Tim, so this August schedule has been brutal for the Giants, and you got more tough pitchers in this series. Scherzer coming up tomorrow, but tonight you got Steven Strasburg, whose ERA is a little higher, but the last time out he looked pretty good.
You know, Strasburg's been battling injuries most of the season, and now he is healed. Last time out, they say he was like his old self, which is not good news. A very power pitcher. You see a hard fastball, a hard breaking ball. He comes right at you. He gives you something to hit, but a lot of times it's about 97, 98 miles an hour. So he's not anything new to the San Francisco Giant club. They've played him. They've competed against him. They've beat him, and there's no letting up from here on out. It's the race to the pennant, and you got to cross a lot of great players and a lot of great teams to get there.
Impossible to let up with the schedule that they got here ahead of them. They've already gone through some of it. I mean, we're talking playoff team after playoff team after playoff team here in the month of August. What is Boch telling the guys, and how do you grind through a month like this?
I think you go back to what Hunter Pence said when we were down 2 games to the Cincinnati Reds, where you got to win the moment. You got to win the inning. You got to win the day, because if you look at that whole schedule, you'll get overwhelmed. I mean, you can put it together in your head how you think you'd like to pitch, and you can put it through your head as a group and how we're going to try to get guys healthy, but nobody really is altogether healthy at a very critical time, so it's going to take some people to stand up, play great defense, and pitch.
One game at a time. It's a cliche, but it's one game at a time. They got to take it that way. Coming up after the game, we got more Flan right here on CSN Bay Area, Sportsnet Central, so you can click it on over. But now we're taking you out to AT Park after the break. First pitch coming up with John Miller, Mike Krukow, Nationals Giants at AT Park.
From the first pitch.
All right, right now it's time for our Roundtable Key Ingredients, brought to you by Roundtable Pizza. True Island flavor in the new Maui Zowie Supreme Pizza with RoundtablePizza.com. You can order online from almost anywhere, even your own luau. Only at Roundtable, the last honest pizza. Number one, open up a can of offense. They've been shut out 2 of the last 3 games against this team. You need to beat a good pitcher. They'll have that opportunity tonight, Steven Strasburg. Number 2, Ryan Vogelsong, be aggressive early. You cannot create hitters' counts against this lineup. They are too explosive. You've got to stay on top of them. First pitch strikes will be very important. And 3, payback. They were swept in Washington. They owe these Nationals. Those are our Roundtable Key Ingredients.
Well, let's take a look at the Nationals batting order now, brought to you by your Northern California Lexus dealer, who invites you to test drive a Lexus today. Yunel Escobar leads off, third base, hitting .308. Anthony Rendon, recently back from the DL, second base. Bryce Harper having an MVP kind of a season. He is in right field, hitting .330. First in the league in homers, second in on base. and leading in slugging percentage. Ryan Zimmerman also back from the DL. First base, Jason Worth in left field. Ian Desmond, whose bat has just started to get going here lately. Shortstop, Wilson Ramos, the catcher. Michael Taylor in center with Denard Span still on the disabled list. And Steven Strasburg, the pitcher, batting ninth. And we're ready to go. Vogelsong against Escobar. And that's hit well. Deep left center field. Still going. It is a home run. And we had to wait. The fan reached out and caught it. The second base umpire, Corey Blazer, belatedly gave the home run signal. And it is 1-0. Washington, one pitch into the game. As Escobar crosses the plate. His 8th home run this year.
Just a challenge, get it in fastball, boom, and Escobar waiting for it, looking middle in, got a ball up, and as he shows you, he's got some power. And indeed, it was over the wall when this guy made the play. He did not interfere with it. Rough way to start a game.
So here is Anthony Rendon. Rendon, who had 21 home runs last year for the Nationals, and has only one this year. He's only had 132 at bats. This is his 36th game of the season. And a curveball for a strike. Vogelsong was the Giants starter in Chicago last Friday night, and he had not started a game in nearly 4 weeks. The count is now 1-2. A 92-mile-an-hour fastball blew by him. His overall numbers for the year, but he actually was the Giants' best starter in Chicago in that 4-game series. But he's had a high pitch count through 4 innings. He started to run out of steam in the 5th, and they got him out of there. When he left, the score was 1-1, but a couple of men on base. They both scored. The Giants ended up losing. 2-2 the count to Rendon with Bryce Harper on deck.
Well, with Vogelsong, you're going to see a low 90s fastball. He will 2 and 4 seam. When he's right, you'll see a lot of corner strikes with that fastball. He's got a curveball, slider, and a changeup, and a little cutter that he will throw a lot to both righties and lefties. Lifetime against this Nationals team, Vogelsong 1-2 with a 5.13 ERA.
He struck him out.
So you give up a home run, you come right back and strike out the next guy, and that's important because you're looking for confidence early in the game, and that'll give him some after giving up the home run.
Bryce Harper. You mentioned Vogelsong's lifetime numbers against the Nationals, but in the postseason last October, that was another story. The Giants clinched that series victory against the Nats right here at AT&T Park in Game 4. In Vogelsong's start, he went 5 2/3, gave up just 1 run. Bryce Harper knocked it in with a double. And that bends him back, a high, tight fastball, 2-0. Harper's batting average is 3rd best in the league. We showed you he's leading the league in home runs. In there for a strike.
And he does not lack for confidence. I mean, he's a guy that flat out says, I don't study film, I don't watch video. If he's got to throw it across the strike zone, I don't care who it is, I can hit it. And that's the confidence he takes in that batter's box. Skipper Matt Williams.
And a change up a little bit low, 3-1.
As Diaz, the plate umpire, I mean, he's a low ball umpire, but it's a pretty tight zone. It's not a real easy zone to pitch to. And his corners can be inconsistent.
Bryce Harper, 22 years old. Ooh. Called that a ball. And he's getting a little grief from the Giants dugout.
Let's take a look at the Giants defense playing behind Ryan Vogelsong in their outfield from left to right. It'll be Maxwell, Blanco, and Pence. Good arms on the corners. Crawford and Duffy on the left side. Tomlinson and Belt on the right side. Buster Posey, he'll be in the squad, putting down the sides.
Bruce Bochy was not too happy about that last call by Las Diaz. And here is Ryan Zimmerman. Zimmerman, in his 73rd game of the year, he's got 9 home runs. That's a strike.
Take a look at the 3-1 pitch, the fastball. And, you know, it's a little unusual because you'll see a lot of low strikes from Las Diaz. That's his tendency. He likes the ball down around those knees. It's a borderline pitch. It could have gone either way.
0-1 to Zimmerman, who's got power. It's a ball and a strike. Las Diaz back at the plate with Chris Guccione, Corey Blazer, and Jeff Nelson from first to third on the base paths, with Nelson at third, the crew chief. One to nothing, Nationals, 1 out. Harper the runner at first. A curveball, a beauty. 1-2. Double play ball. No. Oh, what a stop by Crawford. They get one. And Tomlinson, who might have been stunned even to get any kind of a throw from Brandon Crawford. So they get the lead man. And what a play that was.
Well, Tomlinson, this is a show of youth right here. He had time to come out the bag, set himself, because there's not a lot of speed from Zimmerman. But plus, as hard as this ball was hit, he had all the time in the world to come back, rock, and get a throw off. I just think he's a little goosey right there because he thought somebody was breathing down on him. His back was in the play. That's just inexperience right there. That should have been a double play.
And in Zimmerman's eyes, it should have been a base hit to left center. He got robbed. Jason Worth, the veteran, and he has not been able to get going. Hitting 188, only a 256 on base average. He's been hurt most of the year. This is only his 43rd game. On the outside, 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 down, a run in, and a runner at first.
You come up here as a rookie and you just don't know the opponents. I mean, you expect everybody's going to be fast, everybody's going to be the same speed, and you just don't know how much time you have. And I think one of the toughest plays for a second baseman is when he takes the throw and his back's completely to the play like Tomlinson's was. He's going to anticipate contact. And in fact, there was nobody even close to him. He doesn't know that because he doesn't see it. From where he had to take the throw from Crawford, I mean, his numbers on the back of his uniform were facing the runner coming to second base. But it definitely cost the Giants, and it's going to cost Vogelsong some extra pitches and extra opportunity here for the Nationals.
And Worth is a veteran and a very dangerous hitter, having a bad year so far. Three and 1. And that's called a strike, and Worth can't believe it. He was headed to first base.
We'll see some rubbernecking tonight. And this is a 3-1 fastball, and it's not even close. Worth making the point. We'll see both benches get into this game tonight with Las Diaz strike zone.
Bell plays behind Zimmerman, the runner at first, who will be taking off with this pitch. There he goes. And that one is called a ball. Off the outside.
So we go back to the 3-1 pitch, and this is a strike. Boom. Now you come back to the 3-2 pitch. And it's pretty much the same spot. In the mind of Vogelsong, he's going, wait a second. You can't call one and not call the other. Either call them both balls or call them both strikes.
Ian Desmond and a curveball for a strike. Desmond has not been hurt. He's been in the lineup all year long, but off to a horrendous start. But lately, his bat has started to come around. He got 14 home runs. 1 ball, 1 strike. In his last 3 weeks or so, Desmond has hit 300 with 7 home runs in 22 games. And he's had a couple of home runs already on this road trip for the Nats.
He's been near Brandon Belt. They've been waiting for him the whole season to get hot, and then hoping that this is the time he's going to get it going. But right now, I mean, this is a huge challenge to Vogelsong because of how hot Desmond is, and he's hitting with 2 men on.
Zimmerman at second, Worth at first. A run in, 2 down. Every pitch huge here. This will be the 25th pitch of the inning. Vogelsong now will get a visit from Buster Posey. The Dodgers are playing at home against Cincinnati this evening. They're just getting started down there. No score last of the first. The Dodgers 3.5 ahead of the Giants. The Nationals, there's the hand operated out of town scoreboard showing that game, last of the first. The Mets have already won their game today, 12-3 over Colorado. So at this moment, the Nationals are 4 games back of the red hot Mets. It was Noah Syndergaard, the rookie right-hander, who got the win today over the Rockies. Two and 1 the count to Desmond. And it's 3-1. That changeup in the dirt outside.
Easy take there. Now it's 10 pitches now since the play that could have been a double play, should have been a double play, and would have ended the inning. Vogelsong really having to dig deep here in the first. And that really is a guy's most vulnerable inning. And he hasn't really quite got the rhythm, really doesn't know what's working, what isn't working.
3-1. And that's a walk. Third walk of the inning. The bases are loaded.
Well, a lot of frustration in Vogelsong's mind, I'm sure, because he thought the double play should have been made. And he also has been frustrated with the strike zone from Las Diaz. And right now, that'll be the challenge for Dave Righetti to go out there and just sort of calm him down.
So Wilson Ramos, the catcher, is coming up with a .235 batting average in a key early moment in this game where the Nationals have a chance to open up a very big lead for their hard-throwing young right-hander Steven Strasburg. Vogelsong with a chance to still get out of this with just the 1-run scoring. But it's been a very stressful inning. Next pitch will be his 28th of the inning. Strasburg in the Nationals dugout. Since the first pitch home run by Escobar, there have been 3 walks issued by Vogelsong, and there's ball 1.
He's upset. Got to do your best to try and get that frustration out of your mind, because it will cloud your commitment to a pitch.
Tomlinson. And the inning is over, and just the 1-run scores. A marathon inning for Vogelsong. Blanco, Duffy, and Belt coming up. Fabulous evening here in the city by the bay. The Giants batting order now presented by Audi. Truth in engineering. Blanco center field. Duffy at third. Brandon Belt, who's been hitting so many home runs lately. First base. Buster Posey hitting cleanup. And in the month of August, a .390 batting average for Buster. And his OPS is over 1,000. Pence in right. Crawford at short. Maxwell hits seventh in left field. Tomlinson at second. And Vogelsong, the pitcher, batting ninth.
On the hill tonight for the Nationals will be Steven Strasburg. We'll see what he has done in 14 starts. He has spent some time on the disabled list. 6-5 with a 4.76 ERA. He's got some electricity. You're going to see mid to high 90s with the fastball. He will 2 and 4 seamer. Get a hard curveball and a changeup. All 4 of his movements he can strike you out with. Strasburg, a big guy, 6'4", 230. He is 27 years old. He's a 5-year veteran. And against the Giants, he's never lost. 3-0 with a 2.76 lifetime ERA against San Francisco.
And that's foul tipped. And I suppose it might have hit Ramos, who then looked like he was trying to repair some equipment.
Oh, it just hit him at the top of the hand with the bat.
Yep. Ouch.
So the bat had come around and just smoked the top of his hand. Oh, no. That's how you break your hand. Bones in the back of the hand. Very vulnerable.
1 ball, 1 strike to Blanco. Strasburg, very hard thrower. And that, at 95 miles an hour, fouled away.
Let's take a look at the Nationals defense, starting their outfield from left to right. They're the Worth, Taylor, and Harper, and they are all above average arms. Desmond and Escobar on the left side, Rendon and Zimmerman on the right side, and Wilson Ramos will be in the squad, putting down the signs.
Sharp curveball to the swing. No. Jeff Nelson, the third base umpire, said he checked.
Let's take a look. This is what Jeff Nelson is looking at. Here we go. No. Easy call for the crew chief. Veteran umpire.
And the fastball is low at 96, 3-2. By the way, Strasburg has never been beaten by the Giants in regular season play, but they did beat him October the 3rd last year in Game 1 of the division series in Washington.
That was a good one.
3-2 victory. Jake Peavy was the Giants starter in that game. Starter and winner. Casilla got the save. It wasn't the Strasburg pitch poorly. He only allowed 2 runs and 8 hits in 5+ innings. Right center field. And that will go through. Harper went for the ball. Now he'll have to go chase the ball. Blanco standing at third with a triple.
Three-two challenge fastball right down the middle T-ball location. And Blanco puts a charge in it. And here's where Harper gambles. He's a little short. And once he gets in Triple's alley, even with good speed of Harper, it's not going to slow down Gregor Blanco, who had an easy triple. And there for a while, I thought that Roberto Kelly was going to wave him on in. I mean, I think he'd have had a chance to score. No really big reason here to try and risk that, but with Blanco's speed, you never know.
So a leadoff triple, and here's Matt Duffy. That is into right field, and just like that, Duffy has knocked in the tying run. It's 1-1.
Another pitch that was up, and you heard Tim Flannery say before the game that with Strasburg, he'll give you locations to hit. Now, they're going to have 95 to 98 miles an hour velocity behind it. That's not always an easy thing to do, even if it's a fat pitch, but he has given up two really good locations with the fastball, and the Giants have jumped on both of them to get that run back.
Now Brandon Belt off the outside. Belt now with 17 homers, 52 runs batted in. He's hit 7 of those home runs in the Giants' last 11 games. Sharp curveball. Too low, 2-0.
Vogelsong had 29 pitches in the top of the first inning. And Strasburg was sitting on the bench for a long time. And you can cool off. He'd warmed up, came in, sat in the dugout, then he had to sit through a long inning, and that can mess you up.
2-1. Now Toyota by the numbers. Toyota's annual clearance event is on with 0% APR and no payments for 90 days on 14 models. Take advantage also of the year's best lease rates and bonus cash incentives. See all the offers at buyatoyota.com. Most opposite field hits in the National League this year, and both Matt Duffy, who just had an opposite field RBI single, and Brandon Belt are high on that list. And Belt's been hitting a lot of opposite field homers lately. DJ LeMahieu leads the National League in opposite field hits, and Howie Kendrick of the Dodgers number 2. Number 3, Matt Duffy, and number 4, Brandon Belt. And against a guy who throws as hard as Strasburg, sometimes that opposite field approach can be helpful. Matt Williams there in the middle, flanked by a couple of coaches. Randy Knorr is the bench coach for the Nats. Steve McCatty, the pitching coach. And then Duffy asked for timeout to, I'd say, dust himself off. It seems to be more than just a little bit of dust. They wanted the infield before the game, and he's trying to clean up a little.
He's from Long Beach State. He's a dirtbag. Come on. That's his game.
2-1 the count. 1-1 the score. First inning. The pickoff throw to first on a hop. Gloved by Zimmerman, and back in the dirt. There's the dirt back again.
He just can't help it.
He looked a little frustrated there.
Man.
Look at me. Look at my hands.
Ramos will do this. So, I mean, he comes up. He's aggressive. If he gets a ball on the inside part of the plate to a left-hander, that'll naturally turn his shoulders and put him in position to get a throw to first base. He'll go with it.
3-1 to Belt. And into the crowd behind the Giants dugout.
Strasburg very good at unloading quickly. Not an easy guy to steal a base off of. And Wilson Ramos has a very good arm. It was called a changeup. Strasburg shook it off.
3-2. And he walks him with the fastball. Two men on, nobody out. First three Giants have reached base here, and Buster Posey will come up. .331 average for Buster, and he is second in the National League in batting average behind Paul Goldschmidt of Arizona. Base hit to left. Duffy, he's going to be waved. And overrunning the ball is Worth, and Duffy scores easily, uncontested. Back to second goes Belt. 2-1 Giants.
Watch the location. Right out over the plate at the belt. Another high mistake from Strasburg. And here it's Posey finding a hole through the left side. And Raquel saying, come on. And he's taking on a pretty good arms. Worth could not come up with it. But you know he's thinking he had a chance to gun out Duffy at home plate.
Buster Posey, fourth in the league in RBIs, number 76 for him. As McCaddy, the pitching coach, has had a quick visit with Strasburg. 4 consecutive Giants have reached base to start the inning. And Hunter Pence is coming up. 2-1 Giants. Well, you made the interesting observation, Mike, about sitting through a long inning after you're all warmed up, ready to go. And Strasburg is having a hard time finding his groove. Sharp curveball, and he got the call on that one, and Pence thought it was a little bit low.
It was low. It was not a strike, but I mean, a lot of pitchers make that mistake, and it doesn't hurt you to stay down in that bullpen in case a guy does have a long inning. You get back up and get loose again, keep that arm warm.
A mighty cut by Pence, and a foul back to the screen. Strasburg missed a little more than a month. He got injured in a game against the Giants on the 4th of July in Washington, an oblique muscle strain. His first start back was 5 days ago against Colorado. And the sharp breaking ball in the dirt outside, dug out by Ramos, and it's 1-2. In that game, his first game back, man, he was overpowering. 7 innings, 3 hits allowed, and 12 strikeouts with no walks.
Yeah, I think you can understand what the message was from Steve McCaddy, the pitching coach. Start throwing your breaking balls. You've been getting beat with bad location fastballs. And here he's throwing 2 out of 3 breaking balls to Pence.
And comes back with the fastball and blows it by him.
Well, and that sets up the fastball. The speed of the slider, the speed of the breaking ball, the curveball, it's just so much different than the fastball. So you get ahead with the breaking balls and boom, you finish them off with the fastballs. Sort of pitching it backwards.
Strasburg gets his first out of the inning. And here's Brandon Crawford. Crawford hitting .267, 19 homers, 71 batted in, a .326 on base average. Posey 4th in the league in RBIs, Crawford 5th. And he hangs that curve up and away. 1 ball, no strikes.
I don't think he's got a great feel with anything, really.
He's got 1 out of the inning, 2 runs in, 2 men on base, and this will be his 20th pitch of the inning. Crawford has had some success against Strasburg in the past. 2-0. He's had 5 hits, 13 at bats. That's not a huge sampling, but a .385 average so far. There's the list of RBI leaders. Goldschmidt number 1, Arenado of Colorado 2. McCutchen had 1 tonight for the Pirates in St. Louis. He's 3rd. And Posey right behind him, and then Crawford. .3-0.
And we know that Brandon Crawford will greenlight a 3-0 pitch. He's got 2 home runs this year on 3-0 counts. Like 1 speed, 1 location.
Justin Maxwell on deck. And it's 3-1.
He's taken all the way.
Belt at second, Posey at first. Blanco started the inning with a triple. Duffy singled him home. Belt walked, and then Posey singled home Duffy. 2-1 Giants. Crawford tried to knock somebody else home. 3-2. You can see the dirt on the shirt of Brandon Crawford after his sprawling, great diving play to rob Zimmerman of a hit in the first half of this inning. Three and two. Now, Strasburg is definitely a strikeout pitcher. And a left-handed hitter up there. You would not expect the runners to go here. And he did strike him out.
96-mile-an-hour fastball down around the knees. One of the few fastballs. He's located on the bottom part of the strike zone. Coming right at him. And those are macho strikeouts. I mean, when you're up there looking for a fastball and a guy can still throw one through you, that's impressive.
So Belt still at second, Posey still at first. Both Pence and Crawford have struck out, and here with two down is Maxwell. And that snaps in there for a called strike. Maxwell, a former National. Seven home runs as a Giant. And he'll be doing most of the playing likely in left field in the absence of Aoki. And Rendon throws him out. That ends the inning. The Giants, however, get two and take a 2-1 lead. Duffy knocked in one, Posey the other. And now Vogelsong back to the mound leading.
Nori Aoki was placed on the 7-day concussion disabled list. The Giants have recalled outfielder Ryan Lawless from AAA Sacramento. It's our Kuvara Law Firm Injury Report. It's brought to you by 1-800-4INJURY. Now, I spoke with Nori earlier today. He said he is feeling better today. He did come out of yesterday's game with concussion-like symptoms. Now, he went through the test again. Nothing was confirmed, but the Giants, of course, want to be cautious with this. Norrie said this is his first time dealing with an injury like this, and he was very surprised, gentlemen, to feel that the symptoms were delayed after he passed the concussion test on Monday. He said the symptoms consist of feeling nauseous. He's also having trouble focusing. He spent a lot of time talking to Gregor Blanco, who also suffered a concussion earlier this year. He said that he's hoping that he will not have any more setbacks, and this time down and able to rest and relax will help him get back and healthy. If you've been injured in an accident, call 1-800-4INJURY or go to 1-800-4INJURY.com. John and Mike.
And thanks to Amy G for the excellent newsy report there, as Ryan Lawless has been brought up as Vogelsong strikes out Michael Taylor, leading off the second inning. The second strikeout of the game.
Right to the scout report. You can elevate with the fastball late in the count. He will follow. They had him in a 1-2 advantage. And they go right above the letters, and he cannot stop that bat head. Taking advantage of the guy's weakness right there. Good pitch.
Now Strasburg, 3 hits, 19 at bats for the year. 2-1, the Giants are leading. So Vogelsong comes out of that first inning ahead. Things did not get out of hand in the first inning for him, and they could have, as he left the bases loaded. He could use a quick inning here, though, having thrown 29 pitches in that first inning.
Well, that's the goal. And give yourself a shutdown inning. Get your team back in the dugout. They're feeling pretty good about themselves with the bats.
1-2. Strasburg also had a very stressful first inning. He had 26 pitches thrown. And his inning, the Giants got 2 runs against him. His inning could have been much worse as well. Just got a piece of that curveball. Giants had 2 men on, 2 runs in, and nobody out, but he retired 3 straight Giants to end the inning.
The Expos. Washington Nationals used to be the Montreal Expos.
He takes that curveball. 2-2. Major League Baseball finally bought the Montreal Expos, operated the team, and eventually it was moved to Washington, D.C., owned by the Lerner family. 2-2. And it's a full count. And Strasburg is making his mound opponent work hard here.
You know, and the Nationals, they've honored the former Expos. They've retired Gary Carter and Andre Dawson, Rusty Staub, Tim Raines.
Foul tip into Posey's glove, strike 3.
Well, this is how it started off tonight. First pitch of the ball game, and Yunel Escobar, I mean, he just proceeds to knock it in the bleachers. It's almost like you got to spot him a run. All right, let's play baseball.
Eighth home run of the year for Escobar. Very first pitch of the night.
That's very nice of him. That is a weird feeling. I've had that done to me a couple times.
Do you remember who did it?
I had it done by the same guy, Luis Alvarez, when he was with the Cardinals. He did it in Tulsa. Then when I played against him in winter ball, he was playing for Mayaguez, and he did it again.
This ball into left center, off the end of the bat though, and Maxwell catches up to it. 3 up, 3 down. Tomlinson, then Vogelsong coming up for the Giants. Play is brought to you by Pete's Coffee. It was game 2 of the 2014 division series, and it went extra innings. 6 of those extra innings were pitched by Yusmeiro Petit. He allowed 1 hit, 7 strikeouts, and then in the 12th inning, or he went from the 12th to the 17th, and in the 18th inning, Brandon Belt's home run put the Giants ahead, and the Giants won it, and he got the win. Now offering at Pete's Coffee, limited edition Giants Clubhouse blend at your local Pete's and grocery locations. Pick up yours today. Kelby Tomlinson takes ball 1. Dwayne Kuiper pointed out after that game that Petit 6 shutout innings in tandem with the 6+ innings pitched as a starter by Tim Hudson. The Giants got 2 quality starts in the same game.
That was one of the good lines coming out of that game. But Petit was absolutely brilliant that night. And he said there was a point in the offseason when everything calmed down that he watched every pitch of his 6-inning performance with all of his family. And you can imagine how exciting it was for him and his family members.
Well, that was not the only outstanding long relief performance by Petit in that postseason either. He would have another one later in that same postseason against the Cardinals and against the Royals in the World Series. Into right center. That's going to go through. Out near 421. Tomlinson digging for third. And he will make it standing. Another triple for the Giants.
Oh, it's exciting to watch this guy take off. His ball finds a gap, and you're thinking triple. A challenge fastball right up above the belt. An easy area to defend between the belt and the letters. And here he finds the opposite gap with a little slice going away from Michael Taylor. And just a real direct route to the ball, and watch him go.
A triple and an easy triple. The Nationals with Vogelsong and the pitcher up bring the infield in. And there's ball 1. Tomlinson, who had 3 hits in his first 3 major league at-bats, just ended his first little major league slump. He had gone 0 for 9 since those first 3 hits. Giants ahead 2-1. Runner at third. Nobody out. Vogelsong has had 4 hits and 29 at-bats so far this year. 1-1.
Now, right now, Strasburg's got to pitch him like he's Buster Posey, and there you see a 1-0 curveball. That's a lot of respect for a pitcher. And he needs the strikeout. Does not want this ball to get put in play.
Strike 2 call. Top of the order to follow. Blanco is on deck. Giants have 4 hits already against Steven Strasburg. We're only in the 2nd inning with nobody out. And he struck him out.
And that is indeed the strikeout he was pitching for.
There's Gregor Blanco now. Blanco hit one into that same gap in deep right center for a triple, leading off the Giants' first inning. And the Nationals keep the infield drawn in here. The second baseman, Rendon, is the only one not all the way to the infield grass. But he comes moving in, and that snaps in there for a called strike.
That's good first pitch curveball. The guy throws 95 to 98 miles an hour. You're not looking for anything but a fastball on the first pitch.
So Blanco with a triple and a run scored. Now he's trying to be the RBI man. Infield in all the way around. Way outside.
And that's the changeup. And it really hasn't been a factor tonight. It's been kind of a 2-pitch guy, fastball, curveball, with not great location with the fastball. He's throwing more quality curveballs than anything else.
And he steps off the slab.
Looks clumsy. It almost looks like it's a balk, but it's not. His hands are coming out. He sort of flops his right foot off the rubber.
Just off the inside. 2-1.
Well, when you're pitching for a strikeout and you don't get a corner pitch that you think you should get, it's like a punch in the stomach. Set you back mentally. You want everything you can get in these scenarios if you're on that mound.
Nice pickup by Rendon, and that keeps Tomlinson at third.
If Tomlinson, who is very fast, would have got a great jump off the crack of the bat, he'd have been out by 30 feet. He had no chance. Just the ball hit too sharply, and that's what happens when you pull that infield in. It'll freeze you.
That ball, according to the MLB at bat app, left the bat of Gregor Blanco at 97 miles an hour. He would have been better off hitting it 50 miles an hour.
You're right.
Now the infield back normal depth and a called strike to Matt Duffy.
Again, taking out strike one with that flop curveball.
Leadoff triple in this inning for Tomlinson, but he's still at third with 2 down now. Duffy knocked in a run with a single his first time. And there's another one in there for a strike, and it's 0-2.
This is his best pitch right now.
No balls, 2 strikes to count to Matt Duffy, who is 1 for 1 in the game. Another one. Tomlinson will not try it. Strasburg breaking to cover the plate.
That really was a costly block by Luis Ramos, the catcher for the Nationals. I mean, he's wearing it right now. But he got the job done. The fact that that ball stayed out in front of Ramos is what froze Tomlinson at third base. But look where it gets him, right up around the clavicle on the left shoulder.
So he was instantly hurting, but he had the presence of mind to not only track down the ball, but keep an eye on Tomlinson. And then doubled over in pain immediately after. 1-2.
And he wants another curveball.
So 4 straight curveballs seen by Matt Duffy. All right, you've thrown 4 in a row. Do you throw a 5th one?
Well, I think whatever you throw here, you don't have to throw a strike. If you throw a fastball, you can elevate it above the letters. I mean, that's a tough pitch to hit. And that's just an easy take at 96, way off the plate away.
There's a short list of guys who have done better in spots like this with runners in scoring position, including Buster Posey. Two to 1 Giants. Runner at third, 2 down in the second. 3-2 the count. And he fouls it away. That was up and in at 97 miles an hour.
But not great location. In fact, they set the target on the outside part of the plate. That thing comes up the other side. So he just doesn't have the great command with that fastball. I still believe that curveball is his best bet.
He's thrown a lot of pitches early on. 26 pitches in the first. This will be his 20th pitch here in the second.
And almost all of them have been out the stretch.
There's Bryce Harper, and he was playing real close to the foul line to begin with. Very uncharacteristic positioning in this ballpark. The Giants do not score.
Announcer Erwin Higueros will host an exclusive Q&A session in both Spanish and English. Guests will include Roberto Kelly, Hensley Mullins, Santiago Casilla, Tito Fuentes, and this special guest of honor, Giants Hall of Famer Juan Marichal. Your Los Gamers ticket will also get you a Juan Marichal t-shirt and a ticket to the Giants-Nats game. Go to sfgiants.com/special events.
Here is Anthony Rendon hitting second in the Washington Nationals order. Leading off here in the third against Vogelsong. He struck out his first time. 2-1, the Giants are leading in the third. Harper on deck. Curveball, and the count 1-1 strike. The Dodgers are at home against Cincinnati. The Reds have a 2-0 lead in the last of the third inning at Dodger Stadium. A rookie by the name of Kevius Sampson pitching that one for the Reds. Out of play, 1-2. These Nationals faced the Dodgers the last 3 days, and in the final 2 games of that series they faced Zach Greinke and then Clayton Kershaw and lost both games. Both of the Dodgers aces have just been lights out good so far this year. Greinke leads the league in earned run average, and Kershaw is 4th in the league in earned run average. That is caught by Tomlinson. One away. Giants baseball is brought to you in part by Toyota. Toyota's annual clearance event is on with 0% APR and no payments for 90 days on 14 models. Plus, take advantage of the year's best lease rates and bonus cash incentives. See all the offers at buyatoyota.com. 2-1, the Giants leading Washington. First game of a 4-game series, and here is Bryce Harper. He was a little quick on that one and squibbed it right off the very end of the bat. 0-1. Really, last October was kind of a coming out party for Bryce Harper.
Oh, he was unbelievable.
He hit 3 home runs in that 4-game series, won by the Giants, the division series, 3-1. One and 1 the count.
You know, and it really was the very first time that the bright lights were on him, and he just rose to another level. I mean, he has just got tremendous talent, and he's just now starting to feel it.
At the knees on the outside, 1-2 the count. He's still only 22 years old, which is the incredible thing.
He's learning, and I mean, he's going to get so much better, but he's that rare combination of speed and power. But it takes time to learn the game up here at this level, which is what they asked him to do.
He chased the high fastball.
That's just great use of a fastball. Moving it around in the strike zone and then elevating it, which is not that easy of a pitch to make it perfect. And it's got to be perfect. It's got to be above the letters. And Harper sees it so big, he just can't keep the top hand on it. See ya.
I guess if you're as good as Bryce Harper is, you see that ball and you figure, I can hit that. I can hit anything. Because he's good.
Oh, that's his attitude. He does not lack for confidence.
Ryan Zimmerman hit into a force play his first time, and it could well have been a double play. But his memory of it is that he got robbed of a hit.
Yeah, he's been squaring up a lot of balls. He's been swinging it well. And he is not a 228 hitter. Flip the 8 and the 2, 282. That's about more like it.
2 down, nobody on. Right there, outside corner, strike 2. He's had his injury problems the last couple of years as well.
And we're talking serious injury problems. Problems that put him on the shelf for a long time.
Well, he had 25 homers in 2012 and 26 homers the next year. He's hit as many as 33 homers in the big leagues. But last year he missed most of the season with injury and has missed a good part of this season again. 2-2 the count. Struck him out. 5 strikeouts for Vogie in 3 innings. Belt, Posey, and Pence coming up.
At BayAreaBMW.com. 2014 NLDS Game 2. Brandon Belt steps up in the top of the 18th and does this. Hits it off of Tanner Roark, a solo shot. It was the difference in the game. The Giants would go on to win, and they would just keep winning. That's your BMW drive.
What a night that was. So here's Belt. And I think it's important to remember Belt was not having a night to remember through 17 innings. He was 0 for 6. Never had reached base in any way. A couple of strikeouts. Had not gotten the ball out of the infield. 3 groundouts and a pop out.
Hey, he was due.
And then boom, game-winning homer. Strasburg's got him in an 0-2 hole here. Belt walked his first time. He's 3 for 9 with a couple of walks now against Steven Strasburg. Another hard breaking ball. 1-2.
It's not that easy of a pitch to take either. It's a very, very quick breaking curveball. And it has been his best pitch tonight.
Check swing. Did he go? No. Third base umpire Jeff Nelson. What Laz Diaz has done a couple of times tonight, he has not waited for the catcher or anybody to ask for an appeal. I guess when he's had a question, he's immediately just pointed to the base umpire. And I like that. Strike 3 call. 1 away. 3 lucky fans will win $1,000 tonight with NBC Bay Area's Triple Pay giveaway. It's easy. Just download the NBC Bay Area app for iPhone. Open to get the code, then tap the screen to enter at NBCBayArea.com/contests. Don't miss your chance to win $1,000. Enter NBC Bay Area's. Is it Triple Pay? Yes, Triple Pay giveaway. Buster, right center, another ball into the gap. Now Buster doesn't have the same speed as Blanco and Tomlinson. A double for Buster Posey.
He's a catcher. It's August. Do not expect triples from Triples Alley. Another mistake to location with the fastball. But watch the inside out approach as he squares it up and drives it right through the gap in right center. I mean, that's 3 Triples Alley bullets that have been hit off of Strasburg by the Giants tonight.
Giants have had 2 triples, now a double to that part of the yard. So here's Pence, who struck out his first time. Pence has a homer in his career against Strasburg. That's a little bit low.
I mean, that was a better pitch, first pitch curveball, than the previous at bat that Pence had. He faced Strasburg, and Strasburg opened him up with a first pitch breaking ball, and it was called a strike. It was not a strike. That pitch that it was just thrown was a better pitch.
2-0.
Well, here's where you gamble. I mean, the changeup has been a non-factor tonight. He's thrown it a couple times, hadn't been close with it. So right here, you guess either fastball or you guess breaking ball, because he has to get in the strike zone
here. And he curved him for the strike. 2-1.
To Strasburg's credit, that curveball has got him out of a lot of jams. He's taken a lot of first pitch strikes with it, a lot of 1-0, a lot of 2-0 pitches with that curveball.
Giants have 5 hits against him already. We're only in the 3rd inning. 3 have been for extra bases. 3 of the 5. Two and 2. He was late on that fastball, 96 miles an hour. Reds have lengthened their lead over the Dodgers now, 3-0. Going to the last of the 4th inning at Dodger Stadium. There you see it up on the hand-operated out-of-town scoreboard beyond Strasburg. 2-2 the count. Base hit to right field. Posey had to hold up, but he's going to be waved. The throw is there in plenty of time. Wow. Roberto Kelly seemed to forget that Bryce Harper has a great arm. And Buster was late starting, wanting to make sure that ball was not caught.
Well, and it's across the outfield. All 3 guys with great arms. Momentum to the play. And just a one-hop perfect strike and an easy tag from Ramos to put on Posey. And you can see, I mean, Kelly committed to it. And just absolute perfection off the arm of Harper from right field. Plenty of time to put the tag on, and Posey had nowhere to go.
Well, I was really surprised when he waved him, having watched Buster freeze for a moment when that line drive was hit, just to make sure that it wasn't caught by somebody. Bryce Harper made a perfect throw to the plate, as you saw. Brandon Crawford struck out his first time. Excellent at bat by Hunter Pence, and he finally drilled one through that right side. Well, a big difference between having 2 down and a runner at first versus 1st and 3rd and 1 out, and one of the leading RBI producers in the league at the plate in Brandon Crawford. 0-1.
Again, the curveball opening up the at bat.
He swung.
Now, the other thing, too, you question as to why you send Posey in a 1-out situation when you've got Crawford, who's one of the RBI leaders in the National League coming up. It definitely changes the momentum of an inning.
And Crawford is out on strikes, and the inning is over. Giants have 6 hits in the first 3 innings and leading 2-1 onto the 4th. At McDonald's with the McD app. Download the McD app on your smartphone and get great deals at participating Greater Bay Area McDonald's. Visit McDapp.com. Giants baseball on NBC Bay Area and the Giants television network. Game 1 of the series. And for the Giants, the last couple of innings, although they're leading 2-1, they had chances to lengthen their lead and came up empty both times. A leadoff triple by Tomlinson in the second, but he was stranded. And then Posey with a 1-out double, and Pence followed it up with a single. But Buster was waved on home and thrown out by plenty at home plate. So now Vogelsong back to work. He had a 3-up, 3-down third inning. And ball 1 to Worth, who walked his first time. Desmond and Ramos to follow. Facing a right-hander, interestingly, the Nationals have only 1 left-handed hitter in their batting order, and that is not the norm against Vogelsong or any other right-hander. And they're largely a right-handed batting lineup with all of their regulars in there. They are missing the left-handed swinging leadoff man, Denard Span, who's on the disabled list. At the high fastball strike, it's 2-1.
Jason Worth in his 13th year at the big league level. And a lot of people in Washington believe that he's the key. Get him back. And he's still looking for his swing. And he rushed it to get back up here.
High and foul. Belt coming over, but no chance to get it into the crowd.
Could have been making a play. Bring your glove. You can do that.
Two and two the count. Just got a piece of it. Still 2-2. Worth has been around so long. I remember he had a huge hit as a member of the Dodgers against the Giants in a game right near the end of the season at Dodger Stadium that clinched the division title for LA all the way back in 2004. And the Dodgers weren't even his first team. He came up originally to the big leagues with Toronto. And that is off the outside. It was when he went to the Phillies, though, in time for the 2007 season. That is when he really seemed to find himself. That's when he became an everyday player. And the Phillies themselves became one of the best teams in the game. Brandon Crawford. 1 away. Let's go down to Amy G.
Hey, gentlemen, I have an update on Andrew Susac, who continues to rehab with Class A San Jose Giants. Yesterday, he did catch. Today, he DH'd. He went 1 for 3 with an RBI double and a walk. He's slated to catch tomorrow. He's going to catch, you got it, Tim Hudson, who gets a rehab start with Class A San Jose. Now, I did get the official word on Andrew. I'm not talking about the Giants. I spoke to Andrew's dad, Nick, who was here earlier today, and gave the thumbs up, said Andrew feels real good, just wants to get some more at-bats, guys.
Okay. Not to Bochy, not to the training staff. His dad. How is he, Dad? Okay.
Well, he'll give you a good scout report.
Now, see, that's news reporting right there.
Well, that is good news, though. Giants need good news.
Ian Desmond, change up low. It is a Grateful Dead tribute night, which is an annual occurrence here. Are we going to get Grateful Dead Giants t-shirts?
Well, I hope so.
50th anniversary of the Grateful Dead. Two 2-0 the count to Desmond, who walked his first time, and it's 3-0. So they got special Grateful Dead 50th anniversary K's out there on the area, out on the bricks, where they keep a tally in the home team strikeouts. 3-1.
Which you can buy, by the way.
Used this night only.
Yeah.
And Vogelsong put up 5 of them already in the first 3 innings. 3-1 to the dangerous Desmond, who's been hot lately. Out of play. 3-2. 2-1 Giants in the 4th inning. Dodgers got a home run from Jock Peterson, the Bay Area native. And it's 3-1 Cincinnati after 4 innings in LA. Matt Latos, the former Red, is pitching for LA tonight against the Reds. And that's a walk. Second straight time Desmond has walked.
Yeah, you're talking about how hot he is. He's had a lot of really close pitches that he's taken that have been called balls. And it usually go hand in hand. When a guy starts to heat up, he's starting to get better pitches to hit. He's not chasing out of the strike zone. And the walk total will go up.
We have a famous visitor into McCovey Cove, the historic former presidential yacht of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The Potomac has come sailing into the cove on a bay cruise, on a beautiful night for a bay cruise. And that's ball 1. There it is.
Is that one of your favorite all-time boats?
Well, it's just a great looking vessel. And some people put a lot of time and effort into restoring it to its former glory. Permanently moored over in Jack London Square across the bay in Oakland. And you can put together a group, take a bay cruise on it, and we'll take some regularly scheduled cruises. Crawford, no. And Desmond will head to third. So Wilson Ramos gets one just out of the reach of Brandon Crawford. And the Nationals with a threat now. First and third, 1 out.
And how close did Crawford come to getting it? Oh, just ticked it a bit with the top of his web, his glove. That's close.
And so close to perhaps even being an inning-ending double play ball instead of a single. So here is Michael Taylor. Taylor struck out his first time. The pitcher Strasburg on deck. 2-1 Giants. Taylor's a fast runner, tough to double up. And a foul out of play.
He's only hit into one double play all year long. That's 333 at bats.
He has struck out a huge amount of the time. 112 strikeouts in those 333 official at bats, including the second inning tonight. Giants infield is double play depth. Possible tying run at third, one out. Popped up. Tomlinson backpedaling.
That's better than a strikeout. It's a non-productive out, doesn't cost you as many pitches.
And that's an issue. Vogel's thrown 73 pitches already. We're in the fourth inning.
I think that he's got 100 pitches in his arm. I didn't know if he had 100 pitches in his arm in Chicago. Different elements there. You're dealing with a warmer day. You're losing more body weight out there the longer you pitch. I mean, a start there, it costs you 5 to 7 pounds. Here, it costs you half a pound. So he definitely looks fresh to me. I don't think the pitch count's that much of an issue right now.
A save there by Buster Posey. Ball in the dirt with the possible tying run right over there at third base. One ball, no strikes to Strasburg, who struck out in the second inning and who has had 3 hits in 20 at bats this year. Strike called. Tomorrow night at 7:15, game 2 of the series. Matt Cain for the Giants against Max Scherzer. The outstanding Washington right-hander. 7:05 Saturday night. Jake Peavy and Gio Gonzalez. A day game on Sunday. Bumgarner and Ross. Strike 2 called.
To me, like Strasburg's up there looking for an off-speed pitch. He's not a bad hitter. He's definitely good enough to look for a pitch, even a curveball. Max Scherzer.
One and two the count. Just off the outside. The song very deliberate. Each pitch huge here with a 1-run lead and the possible tying run over at third base. Also a runner at first. Ramos, the possible go-ahead run. And the inning is over. 6 strikeouts for Vogelsong in 4 innings. Maxwell coming up for the Giants.
Most live sports, we take a look at Austin Slater, second baseman 2015. Well, this year he's been with San Jose and Richmond, so he's gone to a couple of levels. 101 games overall, hit 298 with 3 home runs, 2 triples, 24 doubles, 43 RBIs. The big guy, 6'2", 215-pounder out of Stanford, 8th-round pick in 2014. And I'm kind of partial to 8th-round picks, so keep an eye on Austin Slater. That is your Xfinity future focus.
Well, you were an 8th-round pick?
Yes, I was.
There were that many great players in the first 7 rounds that year?
Well, they only took 9 picks that year. So
Is it father and son watching the game together?
Oh, look like it.
Here's Maxwell. A little bit too high with that curveball. He grounded out on a pitch similar to that to end the first inning. Former National, Justin Maxwell. A little bit off the outside, a little bit low. Maxwell's a great big guy, remember. 6 feet 5 inches tall. 2-1 Giants.
He's got a good swing going right now, too.
Enormous power. He spun away from that curve inside.
That curveball now starting to get a little lazy from where it was early in the ball game. These last 2 he's thrown in this inning, he's had a hump in it. It's not what you want.
That is 3-1, a fastball in there. When Strasburg first came up as a rookie, it was Maxwell's final year with the Nationals. So they were teammates for a brief time. Here comes Harper, and he gets there. 1 away. Giants baseball is brought to you in part by PG&E. PG&E, together we're building a better California. The one out here is Kelby Tomlinson, and he hit a triple into the gap in right center, leading off the second inning. On 1.
It's been fastball, curveball. The changeup, he quit on it early in the ball game. Didn't really get a feel for it, and he hadn't thrown it.
Two.
That's the first time he ever saw the breaking ball from Strasburg. I mean, that's where you're disadvantaged as a young hitter. I mean, if you don't see it, you don't know the break. And Strasburg's got a good snapper. And that curveball there is much better than what he threw earlier in the inning to Maxwell.
And he puts him away with another one. 2 down.
Well, Giants fans, come out to Pete's Coffee on Friday, August 14th, as Giants pitchers Jeremy Affeldt and Javier Lopez will serve up coffee drinks from noon to 1 o'clock. You can meet Jeremy Affeldt at the Pete's in the Ferry Building and Javier Lopez at Pete's on Chestnut Street. That is tomorrow, so you can get a free limited edition co-branded iced coffee tumbler with a purchase of $20 or more. Proceeds from the events will benefit Generation Alive and Juma.
I would prefer the Ferry Building location myself, just because it's such a great spot.
Well, Friday, no farmers market, so it's won't be as crowded. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, that's your farmer market day. It's a good farmers market too, by the way.
World class. Like I've been to farmers markets, all over the world.
Well, we have.
Cleveland one time.
It's that or the Gap. Come on, what are you talking about?
2-1 the count to Vogelsong, who struck out his first time.
Saturday, by the way. Chili Achilles. Unbelievable.
Rendon, and the Giants go down in order. And that's a quick inning for Strasburg. The first inning, which the Giants did not get a man on base.
2015 Green Truck of the Year. Guts, Glory, Ram. Visit ramtrucks.com to learn more. We go back to 2014 NLDS Game 2. Pablo Sandoval with an RBI double in the 9th inning to tie the ball game in a game where Jordan Zimmerman, starting pitcher for Washington, was absolutely dominant. The Giants would manage to come back and win. That is our Ram gutsy play.
An unforgettable game.
Yeah, that whole series was just incredible baseball.
Matt Williams had to answer questions about taking out Jordan Zimmerman all winter long. Everywhere he and other Nationals personnel went in that area, the fans wanted to know how come. And Zimmerman was on a roll and he walked Joe Panik, and they brought in Storen. And Matt Williams kind of turned the table on all the people sort of interrogating him about that and saying, well, is that the real story, or the fact that we had 10 more chances to win that game and we could not get a run across in any of those 10 innings after that? Which is a pretty good point. Strike one to UNL Escobar. That was a night that went later and later and later. It was a fairly early start, too. And it got cold. Here's Hunter Pence and Escobar, who homered on the first pitch of the game, and now he's 1 for 3. That game, the 18-inning game, the Giants' Tim Hudson went 7 1/3. Machi, Javier Lopez, Romo, Affel, Casilla, and then 6 innings by Petit. And Hunter Strickland, as raw a rookie as there ever was in a postseason, ended up getting the save in the 18th inning.
Closed it out. Just throw them in and see how they do.
Well, in the 18th inning, you don't have that many choices as to who you're going to put in. Anthony Rendon is struck out and lined out to second. 2-0. And Bryce Harper is on deck. 2-1 Giants here in the 5th inning. Drew Storen was the closer who gave up that hit to Pablo that tied that game in the 9th inning. A little bit high, 3-0. And Storen was having truly a sensational season this year. And then just before the trading deadline, the Nationals, in an effort to bolster their bullpen, they traded for another closer. And that's in for a strike, 3-1. Jonathan Papelbon from the Phillies, and Papelbon, who could have declined to be traded, and he made a condition of it that he would still be a closer. So they moved Storen into the 8th inning. That's back to the screen. And on paper, I'm sure that looked really good. Hey, the game's even shorter now if you're going to beat the Nationals. They got 2 closers at the end of the game. Well, suddenly Storen lately can't get anybody out. He's been clobbered several times here in the last, 10 days or so.
Well, sometimes the guy's aggressiveness was back up against him, and that's kind of a problem with Storen because he never refuses the ball. And there was one week where he had 4 appearances. There's another week where he had 5 appearances, and this is the time of year where that catches up to you.
3-2 the count. He struck him out.
Nice comeback from Vogelsong. 7th strikeout, and all 7 of his strikeouts have been swing and miss strike threes, and that's just an example of good stuff. Remember, he was down to count 3-1. Comes back, throws a 2-seam fastball right through him. Nice compact motion for a big man. That's always been one of his strengths. And Rendon, the way he swung at that ball was by him. He may have been thinking something else. Not the fastball.
Rendon is 0 for 3. Here is Bryce Harper. Very dangerous. He has walked and struck out. 1 ball, no strikes. Cincinnati has lengthened its lead over Matt Latos and the Dodgers. It's now 5-1 Cincinnati in the top of the 5th inning at Dodger Stadium. Matt Latos has just been removed from that game as Harper has a base hit to right field. That extends the inning. The 2 down and brings up Zimmerman, the cleanup hitter. Zimmerman has been robbed of a hit on a great play by Brandon Crawford, and he has struck out. He's 0 for 2. So a bad night for Matt Latos, acquired by the Dodgers just before the trading deadline from Miami. And Latos faced his old team, the Reds, for whom he pitched the last couple of years. And he leaves in the 5th inning, trailing 5-1 in that game. And it's ball 1 to the dangerous Zimmerman. The Giants are going to get the bullpen going now. We talked about Strickland saving that 18-inning classic in the division series last October. Now he's going to get ready in the Giants' pen. Or start to. One ball, 1 strike. Still throwing that fastball up 92, 93 miles an hour.
One thing I've always liked about Zimmerman as a hitter, he's a good low ball hitter for a big man. And that pitch was perfect. In a 1-0 count, it was down at the knees in the outside corner. And he went back and he covered. When you see a hitter foul a ball straight back, he's got you timed. You need to throw another speed or you need to go to another location. Or breaking ball.
1-2.
And that's a little cut fastball at 88 with a little movement running away from Zimmerman that just got off the sweet spot of the bat, just up towards the end, what it's designed to do. But again, perfect location again from Vogelsong.
Can a hitter see a different spin if it's a cutter versus a straight fastball?
Cutter is really much more difficult to pick up than the slider. It's not an obvious spin. Some are more deceptive than others. That's why it's such a great pitch. And the break on it isn't a big one. It's a 3 to 4 inch slide and it's flat.
2-2.
It's a great pitch from a right-handed pitcher to a left-handed hitter. You can get it in on his hands. And it's a good pitch to just get it away off the sweet spot of the bat if you throw it off the plate away to a right-handed hitter. It's just a magic pitch.
Two down. And now full count. Blocked by Buster, and that kept Harper at first base.
I heard his paycheck on that one. Or at least a percentage of it. That was not an easy block. And in a 1-run ball game, I mean, if you don't block it, that's 90 feet. Harper's got good speed. Oh, this is a scud. Bounces way out in front, coming up. You don't know where it's going to hit you, and he center cuts it right to the middle of his chest protector. And that's what you're trying to do, make that chest protector be your glove.
Three and two the count. Belt off the bag at first, behind Bryce Harper, who will be off and running with this pitch. There he goes. Struck him out. 8 strikeout for Vogelsong, who's had 5 strong. Blanco, Duffy, and Belt coming up.
AT&T Park, and a much anticipated one. It is the annual Grateful Dead Tribute Night. It is the 50th anniversary, this is so hard to believe, of the Grateful Dead. Of course, the iconic Bay Area band. You see NBA legend Bill Walton there, and then Jerry Garcia's daughter was out, Annabelle, throwing the first pitch. It really is a fun night had by all, and they raise a lot of money. It all benefits local non-profits, and people were getting their groove on with their tie-dye, gentlemen.
Yes, they were, Amy G. Here, it's the bottom of the 5th inning with the Giants on top of the Nats 2-1. And Steven Strasburg getting set to face the Giants, top of the lineup.
Curveball in the dirt to Gregor Blanco.
Blanco's had good swings tonight against Strasburg. 95-mile-an-hour challenge.
Blanco led off the first inning with a triple into the gap in right center, starting a 2-run first inning for the Giants. He's 1 for 2 in the game. Out front of the plate, and Ramos throws him out. This Saturday, game 3 of this series, it's a 7:05 start Saturday night. One of the most popular promo days of the year, Virgin America Day. The first 40,000 fans attending Saturday night receive a 2-for-1 flight voucher courtesy of Virgin America. For tickets, visit sfgiants.com/tickets. Check it out. Here's Matt Duffy, who has singled home a run. He singled home Blanco in the first inning. Later scored the run by which the Giants still lead the game. Deep into the gap right center. Taylor, who covers a lot of ground. Out number 2.
Just too much height on that fly ball for a guy like Taylor. I mean, he gives him all the time in the world to run underneath it.
Taylor gives the Nationals some excellent depth with the injury to Denard Span, the regular center fielder. And earlier this year, when Jason Worth was out, he was playing left field with Span at center. They have had an excellent defensive outfield. And Brandon Belt chased that changeup 0-1.
And that's the first changeup he's thrown since the second inning. And that was a good one. So maybe he's finding that pitch.
Belt walked in the first, struck out looking in the third. And 0-2. Two to 1 Giants, last of the 5th. The Giants bullpen is warming up again, back of Vogelsong. So it could be the Vogelsong will be finished for the night. There is Hunter Strickland in the pen. Vogelsong's only allowed 3 hits and 1 run. He's had 8 strikeouts in 5 innings. It's been a great night. But the pitch count, 94. Back to the screen. They may not want to press it on his second start after not starting at all for nearly a month.
.97-mile-an-hour fastball. And they set it up with 2 changeups and a curveball, so you can imagine how fast the 97 looked after seeing 3 off-speed pitches for Brandon Belt.
2-2. Tonight was to have been the first start at home for the Giants' newly acquired right-hander, as you see Buster Posey on deck. Mike Leake, he would have been due up tonight, still on the disabled list. Belt slashing that fastball foul. 2-2.
Well, there's a good chance you're going to see Mike Leake in St. Louis on Tuesday.
Bill Rothman's good friend made the catch on that one. Bill Nothman, I beg your pardon. Just missing.
All right, let's take a look at the catch by our fan of the first row. Nice. Kind of like a football.
3-2. And that's a walk for Brandon Belt.
Great at bat.
He is the only Giant to have walked tonight against Strasburg. That's his second walk drawn. And it keeps the inning going for Buster Posey. Now Buster tonight singled to left and knocked in the Giants' second run of the first inning. And then in the third inning, he blasted one into the gap in right center for a double. So he's 2 for 2. Buster now hitting .334 for the year. Second best batting average in the National League. Two to 1 Giants, last of the fifth inning. Now Strasburg off the slab. Belt, you've got to keep an eye on Belt. He will take off on occasion. He's had 6 steals lately. He's had most of them in the last couple of weeks. One ball, one strike.
Most of the pitches that have been thrown tonight by Strasburg have been out of the stretch. Giants have really done a good job of getting him in that stretch early in an inning.
Off the right field line, foul into the crowd. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Buster. Buster has 7 hits in 19 career at bats against Strasburg, including tonight. Big gap in left center for Posey. The center fielder Taylor shaded into right center a bit. And you see how they plan it. There goes Belt, and that's the strikeout to end the inning. On to the 6th. Jason Worth coming up. 2 to 1 Giants.
And security and storage solutions designed to simplify IT. Reclaim your network with Barracuda.
Giants do go to their bullpen as we look at the beautiful view from the other side of the Lefty O'Doul Bridge at AT&T Park. Here's Hunter Strickland on the pitch, making his 34th appearance of the year. He's got a 1.67 earned run average, 37 strikeouts while walking only 7.
Of late, he's really been hot. In his last 19 outings, he's tossed 17 innings, giving up just 1 run. His ERA 0.53. How does he do it? With a fastball that goes mid to high 90s. He'll cut it. He'll sink it. He's got a slider and a split.
0-1 to Jason Worth.
Such an advantage when you have a reputation with fastball that's high 90s, like Strickland does. Guys are not ever going to go up there looking for anything but that fastball on the first pitch. Worth looking for the fastball. He got it and swung right through it. But if you can flop that breaking ball over there for a first pitch strike, it's a great way to get on top of a hitter 0-1.
Worth has walked and grounded out to short. And that is all for Jason Worth. That was 97 miles an hour. It even looked like it had a little cutting action to it.
Well, they set the target in the inside corner. This thing cuts across the plate. You see the four-seam movement, and Posey just winds up backhanded it completely outside the knees. But hey, a 3-pitch at bat. See you.
Ian Desmond, he walked twice against Vogelsong. A high hard one, 97 miles an hour, back into the crowd behind the plate. 2-1 Giants, 6th inning. Both teams have been struggling lately. Both teams second place in their respective divisions. The Nationals now 4 games back of the Mets in the East after the Mets win earlier today. Giants 3.5 back of the Dodgers in the West. Ooh, that was a mean one, and it's 0-2.
He's just not looking for the breaking ball. I mean, he was on the first pitch fastball. But here, Strickland drops a little breaking ball on him at a 0-1 count and breaks him down.
Two strikes the count to Desmond. Struck him out. Wow.
98-mile-an-hour fastball with cut, and the movement is subtle. Like I said, 2 to 4 inches. It just gets off the bat head. Great pitch.
So 2 down, nobody on. And Wilson Ramos, the catcher, will come up. Ramos, who has grounded out to second and singled. Strickland has thrown 6 pitches, all strikes. One ball, no strikes. After falling behind in the count, he went to that breaking ball, and it was a beauty. Really fooled Ramos.
And Ramos will chase. I mean, he'll go down out of the strike zone low, more low than high.
Strickland's last appearance was Sunday at Wrigley Field, Chicago. So he's had 3 days off, and he looks very strong and very sharp tonight. Duffy. And that's a 9-pitch inning. 3 up, 3 down for Strickland. Pence coming up, then Crawford and Maxwell. The Giants 2, Washington 1. the water. Brought to you by the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Share the wonder, share the love at MontereyBayAquarium.org/love. Giants are leading 2-1 as we head to the last of the 6th inning. And Hunter Pence will lead off against Steven Strasburg. Pence has struck out and singled to right. Called a strike. Man, you don't often see Hunter Pence swing break down like that.
Well, especially on a fastball. But the only time you do see him break down is when he's caught between thighs. He's not fully committed to the fastball.
2 strikes to count. Crawford is on deck. And he struck him out. And Pence said he foul tipped it, but Las Diaz said no.
Hitter says he foul tips it. He's usually, I usually feel it, but I agree with Diaz. It didn't look like he got a piece. Yeah, he looks like he got a piece there.
Even in high definition, in that slow-mo, not every frame gets played back. And we had that graphically explained to us on MLB.com in an article, I think it was last year, where you saw a replay on a ball that was either fair or foul from one angle, and you saw that it hit and made some white painted grass fly in the air, and then another angle you didn't see that. There was a frame missing. That's into left field for a base hit. Brandon Crawford, who had struck out 2 times running, gets a single to left here with 1 out.
Well, this is the one angle we thought that he did indeed miss it. But then when you saw it from the side, it looked like he caught a piece of it.
Well, because it looked like the ball got redirected a little bit from the other angle.
From the other angle, indeed. But I mean, Pence is not the kind of guy who would say that he would just barely catch a piece of it if he didn't.
Justin Maxwell has grounded out to second and flied out to shallow right. And he's 0 for 2 against his old teammate. And the count is 0-1.
Well, he guessed right. He was looking for the fastball, and he got it.
Crawford diving back to the bag. Crawford has 4 steals. Has also been thrown out trying to steal 4 times. Nationals have action in their bullpen.
I think it's Felipe Rivero, the left-hander. They've got 2 lefties in that bullpen.
It is Rivero, number 73. Matt Thornton, the veteran, is the other one. Rivero, a much younger left-hander. Strasburg is approaching 100 pitches. We're in the 6th inning. Two to 1 Giants. They've had 7 hits against Strasburg.
Once again, down in the dirt, and he's used that pitch a lot tonight when he's been ahead of Giants hitters. Curveball in the dirt. Ramos, the catcher for the Nationals, has done a nice job blocking those pitches. Next pitch for Strasburg will be 97. And a lot of stressful throws out of the stretch.
Strasburg has been very strong tonight. Giants had their chances in the first 3 innings. They did put 2 on the board right away in the first inning, but missed opportunities in the second and third innings. So those have been those first inning runs, their only runs so far, as Pence and Duffy talk it over in the dugout. And again, excellent job of picking that pitch up and laying off by Maxwell as it ended up out of the strike zone.
Well, you're right. I mean, that's a great pitch right there, heading the count 1-2, and a great take. It's exactly where Strasburg wanted to throw that thing.
2-2 the count. Sorry, Mel.
He gets a lot of strikeouts with that pitch. He wants to throw a fastball away here.
This could be 2. Here's 1. And the relay to first pulls Zimmerman off the bag. Rendon pulling Zimmerman off. And Maxwell, he's a fast runner anyway. Not easy to double up.
Well, they're going to look. Nationals are reviewing this in their clubhouse. See if they're going to challenge. Oh, it just wasn't hit sharp enough. Good feed. I don't think Rendon could have gotten rid of the ball any quicker. Crawford putting good heat on him. There you go. He was well within the bag. Bang, bang. Not enough to overturn there. They won't challenge.
So now Maxwell aboard, and here is Tomlinson. Sergio Romo runs down to the Giants bullpen. Now Maxwell has the speed to steal a base, and a steal could be a play here, although you have the pitcher on deck. The Giants still have a bench full of would-be pinch hitters they could use.
I'm surprised they don't back this outfield up a little bit. Play doubles defense. We've already seen Tomlinson early in the game split the gap in right center, hit a triple. But they are playing outfield at normal depth. A gap here with the speed of Maxwell at first base. Giants can pick up a run. If you play your defense in the outfield back, you give your outfielders a little bit of a chance to sort of cut those balls off of the gap. But they're not doing it. That's pretty straight up normal defense in the outfield. Doubles defense is about 5 to 6 steps deeper, maybe even more, right field.
And Maxwell back to the bag.
Tomlinson's strength, we haven't gotten to know him that well, but it seems to be up. He likes the ball between the belt and the chest. He covers that area well.
And that triple was a ball up above the belt at what, 96 miles an hour, 97 miles an hour from Strasburg. And Strasburg is very intent on keeping Maxwell from getting a jump to try a steal here. One ball and no strikes to Tomlinson. Triple in the second, struck out in the fourth. That's out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike. The Reds lead the Dodgers on the out-of-town scoreboard 5-2 in the top of the 6th inning at Dodger Stadium. Tomlinson, longtime minor leaguer, getting his big league shot here after the injury to Joe Panik. Here is Desmond. What a play. Well done. So we head into the late innings. 2-1 Giants. Hey, Giants fans, Pete's limited edition Giants Clubhouse Blend is now available at your local Pete's and grocery locations. Pick up yours today. We're going to the 7th inning. The Giants ahead 2-1. And for the Giants, a new second baseman, a defensive replacement. Erre Adrianza comes in. Giants wouldn't have minded if Tomlinson had gotten a hit and they'd scored some more runs, but unless Tomlinson had knocked in Maxwell himself, they would have pinch hit for Strickland. And I think they're happy to have Strickland still in there for the 7th inning after his very strong 6th inning. And he starts Taylor with the breaking ball for a called strike.
Oh, you're right. I mean, it was a 9-pitch inning, so I mean, you figure that you bring a guy in out of the bullpen like Strickland, he's got 20-25 pitches you want to get out of him. And if you can get 2 innings out of those 20-25 pitches, that's a bonus.
Steven Strasburg due up second, and Clint Robinson is now in the on-deck circle, a left-handed hitter. Out toward the big part of the yard. Plenty of room there for Pence.
Well, 3 lucky fans will win $1,000 tonight with NBC Bay Area's Triple Pay giveaway. It's easy. Just download the NBC Bay Area app for iPhone. Open to get the code, then tap the screen to enter at NBCBayArea.com/contest. And don't miss your chance to win $1,000. Enter NBC Bay Area's Triple Pay giveaway right now.
Right now.
Hey, I mean, come on. How many places can you wear your jammies?
And everybody doesn't think a thing about it.
Not a problem. Oh, yeah. He's a onesie kind of guy.
You know Stan Bromley.
I do.
The great hotel man who used to run the Four Seasons here in the city. If you went to a gathering at his house, a dinner party, or whatever, some kind of a party, you could never mistake when it was time to leave. Stan would come out in his pajamas.
That was it. That was a good signal.
Oh, look at the time. Stan, we're going to have to run now. Yeah.
You know, just a little subtle hint.
Stands in his jammies, party's over. 1-2 the count.
I don't know. My jammies are just a t-shirt. I don't know how that would go over.
Oh, you think Stan had something different? 2 down, and Strickland looks very, very strong. For comprehensive coverage of everything orange and black, check out pregame live and postgame live before and after every Giants telecast on Comcast Sportsnet. Authentic Bay Area sports. Well, Hunter Strickland he's never looked better. 5 in a row he's retired on 16 pitches in these last 2 innings. And now here is Escobar. And in some ways, other than Bryce Harper, Escobar has been the Nationals' best hitter this year.
Yeah, he loves that first pitch fastball. And stay away. Slider.
Ooh. Well, he was looking for that. It looked like he put quite a swing on it, but fouled it into the crowd.
Well, they stayed away from the fastball, but they gave him a strike with the slider, and it was a hanger middle in. And he just missed it.
Escobar hit the first pitch of the game for a home run to left center. He's also flied out to left center and flied out to shallow right. Crawford in a hurry. Beauty. Made it look easy. 6 in a row retired by Strickland. He's due up last of the 7th, 2-1. Time for the Honda save. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda now at your Honda dealer. Game 4, the clinching game of the division series last year, and it was Santiago Casilla who got Wilson Ramos for the final out of the game, and the Giants clinching the division series and moving on. And there was no team that was more of an underdog than the Giants in that division series against Washington. Washington had the best record in the league during the season by far, and you talk about nobody predicting a win for the Giants outside of the Giants clubhouse anyway, or outside of this ballpark, and yet there the Giants were winning it in game 4. 3-2 was the final. Casilla, who had pitched around Bryce Harper, that's how hot Harper was with a 1-run lead. He ended up walking Harper with 2 down, but got Wilson Ramos, and that was that. This is Juan Perez, just brought up from the minor leagues. When Pagan went on the disabled list, facing the new pitcher, Rivero.
And Rivero's got good stuff. You're going to see mid to high 90s with a fastball. He's got a slider. And he's got a changeup, but you don't see it a whole lot, especially the righties. Or rather, you'll see more to righties than lefties.
95-mile-an-hour fastball. Rendon will give way to Harper. 1 away as Juan Perez is going.
Meanwhile, the Giants bullpen, Sergio Romo starting to get heated up. He will pitch the 8th inning.
And that really could be the inning where the Giants will need to save. The big hitters, Rendon, Bryce Harper, and then Ryan Zimmerman. The 2, 3, 4 spots in the order are the due ups in the 8th. Blanco well off the inside. Matt Duffy out on deck. Blanco led off the first inning with a triple. That started a 2-run rally. All of the scoring in this game up till now occurred in the first inning. The Giants still leading 2-1 as we play the 7th. Right there, outside corner at the knees. Nats have more action going in their bullpen with the right-handed hitter up next. They've got a right-hander warming up. That had a lot of break to it, and apparently just off the inside.
Yeah, Rivero wanted it. Rivero, a rookie.
Off the outside, 3-1. This guy throws hard. Slender lefty. He gets there in a hurry.
I mean, he was a starter through most of his career.
You saw the right-hander Trinan warming up in the Washington bullpen. That's called a strike. 3-2. Two runs, 7 hits for the Giants. 1 run, 3 hits for the Nationals. Full count. Got a piece of it.
He was on it.
Great work by Hunter Strickland, giving the Giants the 6th and the 7th innings. Retired everybody he faced with 3 strikeouts. Back into the crowd. Still 3-2. Blanco, the left-handed hitter, began the night hitting .233 against left-handed pitching. But Blanco, and why should this year be any different than almost any other year that he's been a Giant? He figures to play an awful lot now down the stretch for the Giants after the injury to Pagan put him on the disabled list. And that's a walk. 8-pitch battle between Blanco and Rivero. So the left-handed hitter gets the walk against the hard-throwing lefty, and now the right-handed hitting Matt Duffy will come up.
Well, they get the walk and they get speed on the base pass.
You talked at the beginning of the telecast, Mike, also about Brandon Belt, the Giants, Bruce Bochy changing the lineup a little bit, putting Belt up in the third spot, and maybe trying to get a little more power near the top, but also breaking up the lefties. There's no string of left-handed hitters in the Giants batting order tonight. And they're leaving Rivero in there to face the right-handed hitting Duffy because there's another lefty right behind him. Meanwhile in LA, the Reds have opened up that game. A 4-run 6th inning, and they lead the Dodgers 9-2.
That's a good thing.
0-2 the count to Duffy, who has singled home a run and twice flied out.
Well, now he's pretty much seen him. Fastball, curveball combination.
One and two.
Good pitch. 96 under the thumbs.
The breaking ball, we just got a piece of that. 1-2 the count. Vogelsong went the first 5 for the Giants. 1-run 3 hits allowed. Strickland pitched the 6th and 7th. No runs, no hits, no anything allowed by Strickland, who had 3 strikeouts. Giants in the first 7 innings, the Giants pitching has struck out 11 Nats. Strasburg went 6, 2-run 7 hits with 8 strikeouts for Washington. Rivero, the second pitcher for the Nats, and Blanco steps back to the bag.
And all 11 of those strikeouts the Giants pitching has had tonight have been swing and miss strike threes, and that's unusual. But it is a great testimony to good stuff. Vogelsong with 8, Strickland with 3. I mean, that's getting it done.
There goes Blanco. The one-hop throw, the tag, and he's safe. Rendon covering. Pretty quick throw on that one bounce from Ramos.
Now, Ramos' unload time's good. Well, this base was stolen was off Rivera. That's 1.34 on his unload time. But the Nationals are saying, wait a second, we want to look at this. Get a good look at it right here.
And this is what they're seeing in their video room.
I don't think there's enough there to challenge.
And Matt Williams, just as you say that, he spreads the palms flat to the plate umpire last year. I said, no, go ahead. 9th steal of the year for Blanco. There's Matt Williams, a former Giants great. Trying to keep this a 1-run game. Now the Giants have a runner in scoring position, and Matt Duffy has been one of the best on the club in spots like this, including ones already tonight. Right to the shortstop, Desmond. So not this time for Duffy. 2 down. And the left-handed hitting, Brandon Belt will come up.
And this will be the last hitter that Rivero faces in this inning. Or maybe the game. But with the right-handed hitting Posey on deck and trying the right-hander in the bullpen for the Nats, this will be it for Rivero.
Brandon Belt tonight has walked, been called out on strikes, and walked again. So he's been on base twice. Romo heating up in the bullpen. A base hit could mean a run here. 2 down. Off the end of the bat, falling in there, and Blanco will score. He didn't blast it, but it was very effective. He kind of dunked it in front of Jason Worth, and the Giants get that extra run, a 3-1 lead.
You know, you get more of those little donkey-type hits when you're a power guy because the outfielders have to play deeper. A breaking ball from Rivero just right off the end of the bat. And this, folks, is a fang. Bing.
And Matt Williams comes out with the hook for Rivero. Buster Posey coming up. Trinan in from the Nats bullpen. 3-1 Giants.
#1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment with live in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, broadcast, statcasts, and much, much more. Go to MLB.com, At Bat. Get your app for your smartphone and your tablet. We would be lost without it. Blake Trinan, a new pitcher now for the Nationals. And again, you're going to see some flames. Mid to high 90s with a fastball, hard slider, and a changeup. 49 strikeouts and 44 and a third. Good stuff.
Buster Posey leads the Giants off against him with a runner at first and 2 down in the inning. And that was a hard breaking ball at 87 miles an hour for a called strike. Buster has knocked in a run with a single. He has doubled into the gap in right center and struck out. 2 for 3. Another breaking ball. 1 ball, 1 strike.
I mean, it's a hard breaking ball, but straight down by big slider. I mean, it's a strikeout slider to both right-handers and left-handers, which explains the strikeout total. You average over a strikeout in an inning, you've got good stuff. Period. End of discussion.
Whoa. And that's the final out at second. Rendon to Desmond covering. Trinan, he had the ball on one side of him and the barrel of the bat on the other. Romo coming in. before game 2 of this series. That will see Matt Cain take the hill up against Max Scherzer. We'll be back with you on NBC Bay Area and the Giants Television Network a week from Friday, August the 28th for the, in fact, that's 2 weeks from Friday. That's a long time yet. August 28th for the Giants and Cardinals. Cardinals with the best record in the majors right now. That'll be right here at AT Park 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Cardinals got beat today in St. Louis by the Pirates. That will be a spirited series.
Cardinals, the Giants go into St. Louis after this series. Monday they start a 3-game series against the Cardinals. Sergio Romo against Anthony Rendon. In there for a strike at the knees. Rendon, a right-handed hitter. The lefty, Bryce Harper, is on deck. And the left-hander, Javier Lopez, is warming up in the Giants bullpen. Three to 1 Giants. Off the end of the bat. Brandon Belt. One away. Rendon has been shut down tonight. 0 for 4. So nobody on. I guess Lopez was warming up in case Rendon got aboard, which would have made Bryce Harper the possible tying run.
That's exactly what he was getting ready for. Now with a 2-run lead and the first out, Javier Lopez sits down. Sergio Romo has a chance to get after Bryce Harper. And these are those type of matchups that I think Sergio Romo looks forward to. Any reliever worth his salt would look forward to. Home run hitter, big reputation.
That's a base hit. He's got him with the fastball, and Bryce Harper crossed up the Giants defense. By the way, Ehire Adrianza is now in at second base for the Giants.
A little two-seam fastball running away. It had a little height to it. Just run off the end of the bat, but as strong as he is and as much bat speed as he is, he can still hit a hard line drive, even when he doesn't square it up on the sweet spot of the bat. Jerry Garcia. It was Grateful Dead night as we celebrate 50 years of the Grateful Dead.
The very dangerous Zimmerman, and he is the possible tying run. He had a pretty good rip right there. He's 0 for 3 in this one. His first time he got robbed of a base hit by Brandon Crawford. One and one the count. Sergio Romo in that 8th inning setup role. Zimmerman has only faced him a couple of times, and he's 0 for 2. So not a whole lot of experience against each other for these two. And Zimmerman, I think he has rarely missed a pitch by that much.
That was a perfect slider. And the slider is so deceptive coming out of the hand of Sergio Romo because you just don't see the normal slider type of rotation on the ball. And the break on it's very quick. Double cathedral in the eye of a hitter. See ya.
Third consecutive time that Zimmerman has struck out, including his last 2 at-bats against Ryan Vogelsong.
Just an absolutely perfect pitch, and you can see that the eye of the slider is beneath. It's on the bottom of the ball, so it doesn't tip the pitch in the eye of the hitter. And yet it's still a very sharp breaking ball. And he has exceptional command with it. I mean, it's been his bread and butter since he's come to the big leagues. And even guys that have seen him a lot still are not comfortable with it.
2 down, runner at first. Jason Worth, another guy with lots of power as Harper runs. Buster from his knees. No.
The unload time there from Buster Posey was the only thing that made this play close. That and the fact that the throw was perfect. Pretty big jump. Posey knew he had to get rid of it quickly because of the size of the jump that Harper had.
Well, he just beat the tag there from Adrianza. It's 0-1 to Jason Worth. Giants did check that. They asked, the protocol is to inform the plate umpire that you'd like just a moment because you're considering a replay review request. And then they get word from the video room down at the clubhouse from Sean Dunston and Chad Chop. In there, strike two call. Jason Worth 1 for 9 in his career against Romo in the regular season. 0 for 6. The one hit he had against him was in the postseason. Way off the outside.
Big sweep. Easy take.
The Nationals bullpen, meanwhile, is busy. Casey Janssen, a right-hander, warming up. We're in the 8th inning. Giants ahead 3-1. Harper at second. 2 down. Struck him out. And Romo gets through the big part of the Nationals' order. An 8th inning save, if you will.
The Comcast Sportsnet has complete Giants coverage on Sportsnet Central every night at 10:30 p.m. And Comcast Sportsnet, the authentic Bay Area sports. Tonight, you can join Henry Wilford and Ahmed Fareed as Bobby Evans, Giants general manager, will join them. And he will do it on the phone, updating all the rumors surrounding Chase Utley. He will also give you the updated information on the health of this Giants club. To see all that and more tonight, Comcast Sportsnet. Sportsnet Central.
Hunter Pence leads off against Blake Trinan. Pence is 1 for 3. Called a strike.
Well, it's 97-mile-an-hour sink. Santiago Casilla starting to get heated up in the Giants bullpen. He will pitch the 9th.
Two and one now to Pence. Pence one hit came with a runner in scoring position. That was Buster Posey back in the third inning. But it did not get him an RBI. Here's Desmond. And he gets pinched by a step. One away. Desmond, who has one of the top throwing arms of any shortstop, this side of Brandon Crawford. You know how there's something called StatCast now at MLB.com, and they put out something for the month of July. The best, or the fastest throwing arms, I guess, in terms of radar gun speed at shortstop, and Brandon Crawford was at the top of the list for the month of July in the National League.
That's not a surprise. Giants fans that watch Brandon Crawford day in and day out, they know he has a cannon from any angle. Coming in a ball to his left, to his right, doesn't matter.
Desmond gets this one. So 2 down. Crawford is now 1 for 4.
Trinan was a walk-on at South Dakota State University. Wound up being a 7th round pick by the A's in 2011. And he's got great stuff.
Two down, nobody on. Trinan has induced 3 consecutive groundouts since he came on with 2 down in the 7th. And you can see that sink there at 97 miles an hour.
I mean, that's just not right. Usually your highest velocity fastballs are 4-seam fastballs. You don't see guys throwing 2-seam fastballs at 97.
1-1.
And that was not a 1-0 swing. That was more like a protect the strike zone in an 0-2 hack. You don't see emergency swings in 1-0 counts very often. And that was one of them.
Another one there on the slider, and it's 1-2.
This is great stuff.
Trinan is in his 36th game. His numbers are not that great, and one of his problems has been harnessing his stuff with control. He's had 22 walks, or had coming into this game 22 walks issued in 44 1/3 innings. Sinking low.
And this is the first time Justin Maxwell has ever faced him. And I think he got surprised twice by late movement in this at bat.
Maxwell is 0 for 3 in the game. 2 down, nobody on. And that is the inning. 3-1 Giants. 3 outs remain for the Nationals. Santiago Casilla with Desmond, Ramos, and Taylor due up in the ninth. Casilla comes in to try and save this one for Ryan Vogelsong.
48th time that Casilla has come into a game. He's got 27 saves on the year. 40 strikeouts and 39 1/3 against 18 walks, 4-2 with a 3.89 ERA. You're going to see low to mid 90s with the fastball, more mids than lows. He will 2 and 4 seam that fastball. Got a curveball, a cutter, and a changeup. And he'll throw them all.
Desmond, and that's a little bit low. Casilla last worked in a game on Saturday, so he's had 4 days off since then. And he was very poor in that game on Saturday. Duffy, one away. And he had a big target at which to throw. Brandon Belt, all 6'5" of them, and that was a good thing on that throw.
Well, you're right. It's nice to have a big target over there. It's nice to have a guy with some height. I always say if you're going to miss low, but when you have a guy 6'5", you can miss a little high.
Well, that's a nice security blanket for any infielder to know that you got a guy who can pick a ball out of the dirt if you make a low throw, and to make a high throw, the guy's 6'5". He can catch a high throw.
Post up, get that rebound.
The one down here is Wilson Ramos. Off the foot. Ouch. Dodgers trailing in the top of the 8th inning at Dodger Stadium. 9-3 on the out-of-town scoreboard. Here is the posting on the hand-operated AT&T Park out-of-town scoreboard. Out there in the 4th archway. Cubs won again today. Cubs are they're 13-1 now.
On fire.
They swept the Giants last weekend, and now they finished a sweep of the Brewers today. A 9-2 win at Wrigley. 0-2 to Ramos. Good fastball.
That's first 4-seam fastball he's throwing.
Cubs in the National League are red hot, and the Blue Jays won their 11th in a row today in the American League.
Second time they've had an 11-game win streak this season. How about that?
I read that it's the first time since 1954 that a major league team's had 2 different 11-game winning streaks in the same season. Not very often does it happen, to say the least. That's 61 years ago the last time. 1-2 the count to Ramos. Michael Taylor, another right-handed hitter, is on deck. Crawford. 2 down.
Yeah, if you can get him to hit Brandon Crawford, I mean, that's pretty good philosophy right there.
2 down, nobody on. Michael Taylor is 0 for 3. He struck out, popped out, and flied out. Three runs, 8 hits for the Giants. 1 run, 4 hits for the Nats. And a lot of movement running off the inside. 42,109. The official paid crowd tonight at AT&T Park. That's a foul out of play. A ball on the strike. Giants passed the 2.3 million mark in their home attendance. 25 home dates remain. Game 2 of the series tomorrow night, 7:15. And a great matchup, Matt Cain versus Max Scherzer. Drilled down the left field line. Into the corner. Maxwell has to go dig it out. A double for Taylor. And the Nats are still alive, and the possible tying run will come to the plate. Danny Espinosa, a pinch hitter, will come up.
Little 2-seam fastball. right up middle in at the belt. And Taylor just spins on it. Hooks it right down the line, and with his speed, an easy two-bagger. And the reaction from Casilla, that happened. He knew he missed his location badly. So Buster Posey right on the heels of that double out to talk to Casilla and basically saying, forget about that. Let's get this hitter. That run means nothing.
Danny Espinosa, a switch hitter, and he got a lot of playing time with Rendon on the disabled list. Rendon's back now, but he hit well. He had 10 home runs. Ball one.
When you're going through a rough streak too as a pitcher, it just seems like nothing's easy. And the one thing that you do that is something to set you back is you overthrow. That's a mustache and a half right there.
Back out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike. Espinosa no longer wears that mustache, as you can see.
I think weighed 10 pounds. I mean, he's much faster without that mustache.
So that was the picture, I guess, taken during spring training. He is the possible tying run. The leadoff man Escobar is on deck. 1 ball, 1 strike. Right in there, strike 2 call.
He was not looking for a fastball. I mean, Espinosa's not a guy who's going to go up there and look for a walk. He wants to swing it. And he was guessing 1-1, and he was not guessing number 1, the fastball.
A ball and 2 strikes. Up and away with a cutter. Casilla to the rosin bag. Things have not been coming easily for Casilla lately. Two and 2 to count. He struck him out. He went to the curveball and put him away. And the Giants have taken game 1 of this series. Vogelsong, the winner over Strasburg, 3-1 Giants.
Well, just an outstanding pitching performance from everybody involved tonight. 14 strikeouts from Giants pitching, all swing and miss strike threes. That is remarkable.
3 runs, 8 hits for the Giants, 1 run, 5 hits for the Nats. And Vogelsong, just as he did in the clinching game of the division series last October, he beats Washington here at AT&T Park. 3-1 Giants, and we'll be back with more. Stay with us.